Thanks, bro. It's good.
Well, Kyrie, talk about the performance of your team tonight. You came out with a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. The Clippers came back in the third quarter, cut it to single digits, but then you turned it on. Talk about the performance of the team tonight.
Yeah, I think we had a good start to the game, great energy, like you said, and we're just feeding off of that and trying to make the right plays. In a playoff game, game 3, it could go either way, just depending on how you start and also how you continue to be resilient in those next 3 quarters. So I think we did a good job of just sticking to our game plan and being aware that they were going to make plays within the plays and sometimes break it off. So we had to be aware of some of their quick decisions and be aware of T-Lue's play calling out of timeouts. He's shooting he has a pretty high percentage against us right now, so we obviously want to cut that down. But when it gets to the gritty part of the game, I feel like we responded and we kept our emotions and we were able to battle to the end and come out with this win. So I feel pretty good.
Kyrie, congrats on the win. I talked to AJ after the game. He got his first playoff bucket. I know you've had a lot of accomplishments throughout your career, but I'm curious, do you remember your first playoff bucket?
Yeah, I do, and it's something that you don't want to take for granted. I didn't take for granted, and I was telling those young guys when they got in, go after it. Minutes in a playoff game are just as important as any other minute. You just never know when your number is going to be called, so I'm glad that AJ answered the call and I was able to get a lob and feel good about himself, and we were cheering him on, and that's what team basketball is about. It's just everybody, fulfilling their role, but also celebrating the small wins out there, even if it's at the end of the game.
Chase was talking about the positive impact you had, even though you had 2 first-half points. You were a plus 10 on the court and doing everything else. How can you explain the process you go through mentally, just kind of staying patient, and then all of a sudden they get within 6 in the third quarter and you kind of kick into overdrive?
I definitely would love to speak to that in detail in the future. I'll answer your question. I'm saying I would love to talk to the younger generation about it, because there are things that I struggle with as a young player, especially in high intense moments where you're kind of used to having the ball in your hands, or you look up at the scoreboard, which a lot of us happen to do. I know I'm not the only one, and sometimes if you don't see your points total looking like normal, you can psych yourself out of the game, and you can end up being in a position mentally where you're not able to still impact positively. And that's something in competitive sports we don't talk about often. It's just the external pressure that people put on themselves to live up to certain expectations when it's just one game. You're playing in the playoffs, and if you look at the history of the game, there's not a fancy formula that all these championship teams had. They just continue to battle, continue to do the little things on the defensive end first, and then allow their offense to flourish. If you look at some of the greatest players in history, some of their, low moments, they didn't score much, but they had a huge impact on the game. So I try to have that same approach mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and then allow my physical talents and abilities to play out in the right time and right situation. So just being mature about it, man. It's 2 points, the F what. It's about winning the game at the end of the day and making an impact when it's needed most.
Kyrie, how do you think you guys, and PJ in particular, handled the extra chippiness that occurred in the fourth quarter?
I was just telling my wife this other day. I think we spoil the fans in the regular season in terms of how many points are scored and how it's a different style of basketball. When we get into the playoffs, and it gets a little extra chippy. And I think when you're seeing the true competitive nature of certain guys, it's human. And you got to be able to control it. That's the key to all this. And if you're going to dish it out, you better be able to be ready or prepare for somebody to dish it back to you. So you just got to pick and choose your battles wisely. Know who you can get under a little bit mentally, and just focus on the big picture at the end of it. That's overall. It's just don't get kicked out of the game. But if you are, then just make it worth your while, and just make sure we're winning. You know what I mean? Like, just make sure we're winning, and that covers a lot of mistakes. Is when you win, you kind of get exited out of the game. But I think things are going to happen throughout the rest of the series, and we just got to be prepared and a lot of provoking going on, but it's just chippiness of the NBA game and just basketball when stretches get a little tough.
Is there any benefit to embracing the theater of competition? Is there any benefit to embracing the theater of competition?
Embracing the theater? What do you mean? What comes with it?
Exactly.
With playoffs or just in basketball in general? Just playoffs? Yeah, you have to embrace it, and you also have to be conditioned mentally and physically to be able to dish it out. I think that's what you're seeing right now is both teams are saying physicality, and you got to be able to do it for 4 quarters and still be able to run your offense at a very high level, still stay efficient, don't force yourself into a one-on-one matchup, and then defensively be there for your teammates and continue to stay locked in and focused. So, again, it's a chess match.
You kind of just answered my question, Kyrie. When you're playing against an opponent who is not 100%, and they can also often be seen as a wounded animal, and how do you guys maintain your focus to stay aggressive and disregard that and get your job done?
Just making the main thing, which is winning the ball game. They're going to throw guys at us. We're going to throw guys at them. They have depth. We have depth. In the playoff series, I don't think anyone's really 100%. So we're all battling through something physically, but I think mentally, when you can galvanize the group and trust that when you go out, someone else will fill your spot and continue to bring the energy, continue to do the right things on the offensive and defensive end, and that takes one stressor away from you if you are wounded, or a little injured. And I know a lot about the injury bug, especially in the playoffs. I could think back to just my Boston series where I played 20 games in that season, and you just don't have that extra gear. And everybody's been playing, 60 games in the regular season, then you come into the playoff series. It's a little tough. I think some of the greatest can do it, but when you're going against some guys that are really clicking at the right time, it's a little difficult to get your rhythm. So the playoffs are a different level. You don't get a chance to just fire away at will like the regular season. Every possession matters, and for us, we just want to focus on our main thing, which is, again, winning the ball game.
To follow up on that, what has helped you guys click so easily this second half of the season, if you will?
We just took a look in the mirror, and we had a lot of bonding time off the court, and we just did things as a team, and we went through adversity. We talked about it. We were very honest in our therapy sessions that we used to have after games sometimes, or at times, and we just were ready to move on to the next thing. We don't have time for distractions. We got to eliminate all those. So that's been pretty much the MO in our locker room is, when teams are coming at us, look back at the times where we did not live up to our standard and use that as motivation and energy to continue to put your best foot forward. And I could live with the results, and I'm sure as Luka walks into, and J Kidd and the rest of us, we could live with the results if we put our best foot forward and the team just beats us that night, or we're not shooting particularly well and we can rely on our defense, or vice versa. So just keeping the big picture ahead of us.
Hey, Kyrie, you're 19. You first forced 19 turnovers, 12 steals, I think 7 or 8 blocks. To put it in the NBA theme this year, is the Mavs defense a thing now?
I don't know if we're necessarily looking for recognition. We'll see if this journey continues and we get to the big stage, and we can honestly be judged at the end of the season that way. But it's just another game 3, and us just going back and watching film tomorrow and continuing to see where we can get better, because we definitely weren't perfect tonight. I feel like we did some great things, and we can celebrate that, but overall we just know we have to keep that hunger inside of us and continue to want to be better.
Kai, and when we usually discuss foul trouble, we'll say 3 fouls in the first half or 4 fouls in the third quarter. You picked up your 4th, and you only had 2 points, but the rest of the game, you had 19. You didn't pick up another foul. How did you manage that? How do you usually manage that? And how did you have so much success throughout foul trouble tonight?
Well, I would like to continue my streak of not fouling out of games. I think that's a positive. I like to think of myself as a valuable asset out there, so just got to play it smart and also understand that they're going to be targeting me a little bit, and just be able to respond and just use my IQ to the best of my ability. It's not going to be the last time that I have 4 fouls, so just preparing for those moments and just reverting back to what I was talking about before, just trusting that the guy that comes in for me during that time also has that ability and belief and confidence from me that he can continue to either continue to run or give me a breather or give me time to be able to settle my thoughts, because there were some fouls that I was committing that are uncharacteristic, and I got to be real with myself and be accountable. Some of them I just can't commit, and so you look at it in 2020 hindsight and you're like, I should do this better. But at the end of the day, it's a team game, so I got to trust whoever comes in with me, and those situations are going to come up again, and we just got to be prepared as a team to deal with them.
Thank you. Stepping in next.
Let's get ready for Hoop Jab.